We move to the treatment and disposal methods in our module of healthcare waste management. And hospitals have a primary duty of doing no harm. And what we always tell to for this healthcare waste management, that healthcare waste must never be disposed of untreated. And now there are numerous methods of disposal depending upon the volume and type of the infectious waste. And what is recommended to use the most environment friendly and effective option that is available for you. And there are a number of options are there. But as a manager, the job is to save life of living beings from spread of infectious diseases and complying the hospital's rules and regulations and their primary duty of doing no harm. So, proper treatment and disposal of healthcare waste is of utmost importance due to strong repercussions if not treated and disposed of safely. The untreated healthcare waste result in spread of infectious diseases such as HIV/AIDS, hepatitis, other infectious diseases, viral infections, and the bacterial infections. So, usually what is seen that healthcare waste is non-treated and disposed of with the general waste or the solid waste and just thrown on the open dumps where the scavengers access them, or the black market recyclers, they access them and they take away all the syringes and drip sets which are hot to be sold. And recently in Pakistan, to curb this practice of reuse of syringes, recycling of syringes. Now the auto-disable syringes are available for, especially for the vaccination purposes, and also they have made legally available. And the other syringes have been discouraged to be used, which could be reused. So there are a number of treatments and disposal options depending upon the level of health facility and composition of waste. So let's first see what are the categories of healthcare waste. So for the risk waste, we have infectious waste, we have pharmaceutical waste, we have pathological waste, we have sharps, genotoxic waste, chemical waste, and the radioactive waste. So what does it mean that the 20% of risk waste can be further segregated into these types? Genotoxic waste is the waste which can cause the mutation in the genes. It is usually found where the chemotherapy of the cancer patients is being done. Also, the chemical waste also comes from there. And one of my earlier sessions, I have talked about these risk waste in detail. You can always look at that session, go back and look at that session in which I have described in detail each one of them. So, the planning of the treatment and disposal of healthcare waste. It is important that every hospital, healthcare facility, they have their standard operating procedures that should include the safe work procedures for waste handling and segregation, spill management, training of the staff, regular review and update of the waste management plan. And under the hospital waste management rules of 2005 and later on the updated guidelines which have been published from time to time, every hospital has to have the waste management team headed by the medical superintendent or CEO of that hospital, and there should be one infection control officer. It could be a trained nurse in infection control or medical professional, other medical professional who is trained in the infection control. So all the contaminated material, solid or liquid, must be decontaminated before before disposal or the reuse. So when treated correctly, waste materials are rendered non-infectious and may be discarded either through the sewage in case of liquids or through the regular garbage disposal in case of the solid waste. In one of the treatments where it can be rendered non-infectious is either using of the hypochlorite solution or using the autoclave. And there are other methods as well. Shredder is also there where the large plastic material, infectious plastic material is first of all disinfected with the hypochlorite solution for 30 minutes to 1 hour, and then it is shredded into that shredded into small pieces and then disposed of. So what are the responsibilities? At the facility management team responsibilities, they have to provide the waste treatment equipment, fuel and operational budget, provide the vaccination for the incinerator operators, and ensure there is adequately trained manpower. For the waste management officer responsibilities, it includes ensuring all healthcare waste is segregated, stored and transported to the treatment facility before disposal, securing the site and the final disposal of ash which is coming out of the incinerator, and monitor the waste emissions and the residue. The waste handlers, they have certain responsibilities, including removing waste from generation points and transport it to the incinerator site. Now, the operator at the incinerator or autoclave or the shredder, he or she has to maintain the records of waste treated and disposed. The waste is type of the waste is recorded. Its weight is done, and that weight should be the same when it was transported, and before installation it should also be the same, so that there is certainty that their waste has not been stolen or had been removed from that facility. Ensuring proper maintenance of sanitation within the area, and report any malfunctions of the incinerator or autoclave to the maintenance officer. So there are what are the methods of treatment and disposal? So among treatment, we have autoclaving, we have incineration, we have shredding and chemical disinfection or chemical treatment. And disposal options that we have are sanitary landfills and the open dumps. But this is most of the time the open dump is not the proper way to do that. It's better they go to the properly maintained and properly constructed and maintained sanitary landfills or other places which are much safer. So let's talk about the autoclaving. What are could be the possible risk of using the autoclaving? Because of safety first, the rule is of the safety first. So whoever is using the autoclave, the possible risk would be the substantial heat and pressure generated by the autoclave. The autoclaves, these are the big autoclaves. I'll show the picture in the next slide. So these are the big, it's not like a microwave, they're big as you see in your houses or offices. So they are a bit big ones, and they heat from steam, hot liquids and other material, including the container, the autoclave chamber and the door. Falling items could happen, heavy containers of waste being put into it, and if it is removed, it can fall back and it can be very hot. And it can happen that the treatment cycle can fail, and inclusion of untreated waste may be the cause of contamination to workers and the environment. Broken glassware that has been placed in the bags rather than the puncture-proof containers, possible explosion of the autoclave can also happen. So what are the safety instructions? Never autoclave materials that contain toxic agents, for example, disinfections, corrosives, acid, for instance, acid, bleach, bases or phenols, solvents or volatiles, for instance, ethanol, methanol, acetone or chloroform, or radioactive materials. Always train the operators on equipment safety measures. Potential burn hazard, where is the emergency switch, what are the safety valves, electric isolators, and the use of the fire extinguishers. And what are the materials for the equipment? So what is required for that is the autoclave container or the bin. Then you need autoclave bags, autoclave tape, biological indicators, PPEs, rubber gloves for handling cool waste, and other potentially infectious materials, safety shoes and boots, log records, and the forms. So this is the picture of an autoclave, and the credits are given to the Google Images. So this is one big autoclave, and when the operator has to operate on it, he has to wear appropriate PPEs, including gum boots, overall gloves, safety glasses. Then do the routine checks, equipment checks, and prepare the waste for the autoclaving by check the state of the waste bag. It should be closed, not overfilled or damaged, labeled. No sealed bottles should be inside it. Bag should be closed by autoclave tape or test strip to confirm sterility after the autoclaving. And record the weight, number of safety boxes in bags to be treated, and log in the operation log. Prepare the autoclave, turn and the power on the switch. Add deionized water into the water container or the chamber and set the sterilizing temperature and the time. After that, the waste is loaded. Bags put into the loading bins. Add bioindicator in the load. Put the basket loading bin into the autoclave chamber. Close the autoclave, record the time when the sterilization begins, record the pressure recording in the operation log, record the time when the sterilization stop, and allow the aeration and cooling of the autoclave after sterilization is complete. Wait until pressure gauge falls to the zero. Never open it before it is fallen to the zero. Otherwise, it will burst out to yourself and you can become injured. Waste unloading is done. And to do that, always wear heat insulating gloves, eye protection, lab coat, and closed toe shoes. Ensure that cycle has completed and both temperature and pressure have returned to the safe range. Stand back from the door as a precaution and carefully open the door no more than 1 inch. This will release the residual steam and allow pressure within the liquids and containers to normalize. So never open it all along. So just give it a 1 inch one so that the pressure is released. Remove items from the autoclaves. So, and document it in the operation log and in the validation log. So now let's move to the incinerator, how to operate an incinerator. First of all, again, safety first. Let's look at the possible risk. Incinerator can cause burns, spillages, explosions, smokes, and fumes. So to avoid the burns, the incinerator operator must follow the operation guidelines and prepare appropriate PPEs. Here, he should use leather gloves. For spillages for healthcare waste may occur when loading the waste into the incinerator. So spill kit and training on management on spillages must be provided at the incineration area. Explosion can happen and care must be done to ensure explosive material are not incinerated. And for incineration can produce smoke and fumes. Therefore, the incinerator operator must provide with adequate recommended PPEs all the time, for instance, fume masks. So this picture shows that, well, it is about, it is just to show it that what PPEs can be used. But along with that, incinerator burn log and maintenance and logs and registers should also be there. For pre-operation, this is a checklist for that, which contains checking the maintenance log, checking the indicator log, incinerator logs, donning the PPEs before handing any waste or performing the maintenance. And you have one of those sessions on donning as well. Avoid contamination during donning of PPE. And check the enough fuel is available for operating the incinerator. It shouldn't stop in between, and the partial burning must not be there. Perform any routine maintenance checks, remove any ash from the incinerator which is already present, and rake ash into the heat-proof, puncture-proof container. Dispose the ash in the ash pit or the package, or label it and send it for the disposal. So before burning of waste, always preheat the incinerator for 20 to 30 minutes. Just like you preheat any oven. So it has to be preheated as per the manufacturer's instructions. Load the waste, lose 1/4 of the incinerator hourly capacity every 15 minutes. Poke the waste before additional loading. So it has to be go in and then make the space and then add in more. Monitor the combustion process. Do not leave the incinerator unattended during the operation. Monitor the following: temperature, air inlet, fuel injection, clogging of the fumes throughout the combustion process, and monitor the color of smoke emitted at the chimney. There is a you can find this some note in red on the foot of this slide, and the following, it is a caution: do not incinerate the following, with including chemical residues, genotoxic and radiotoxic waste, inorganic compounds, pressurized containers, halogenated plastics, and waste with high content of heavy metal. They must not go to the incinerator. So if they are there, do not incinerate them. They will go to other methods like autoclaving and other methods, chemical treatment or autoclaving, because if they are inserted into the incinerator, then a lot of environmental damage is going to happen. They give out the dioxins and furans, which are precursors of different kind of cancers, especially the soft tissue cancers. So incineration process, add the last load batch and burn for 30 minutes. So it has to run for 30 minutes. After that, turn off the burners and leave the blower fans running for at least 1 hour. So it's because you see the incinerator runs, a double chamber incinerator runs at a temperature of 900 to 1200 degrees centigrade. So fans need to be, blowers need to be run for at least 1 hour to cool it down. Shut off the fuel supply and allow the fire to die down. Do not leave the incinerator until the fire has died down completely. Ensure that the area is clean and that all the materials, including PPEs, are cleaned and put away at the end of the day. And always take a bath before leaving the work. Document each and everything. As I told earlier about the weight of the waste that you brought in and the quantities in kilogram. Operating temperatures, incineration time, each and everything should be documented. How much weight was there which you incinerated, on which temperature, and till what time. Now we come to the shredding. This is another interesting and an alternative kind of process where the waste is shredded. And this waste shredder is a machine which is used to break large waste particles before disposal. If you have them in your hospitals anywhere, so there are some pre-operation safety checks. So because it is a machine, check all the bolts and screws for proper tightness to ensure the machine is in safe working condition. Ensure all guards are fitted, securely attached and functional. Never operate without the shredder hopper, chipper chute or the discharge chute properly attached to the machine. Be familiar with all controls and their proper operation. Faulty equipment must not be used. Report any suspected faulty machinery immediately. If you find that there is the nut and bolts are loose or there is some issue, always report it. Don't use it unless that is fixed. So when you have to operate it, always wear PPE, and now you also have to use the helmet, goggles, face shields, respirators, overall or apron, and protective gumboots, because particles are going to be there. Large particles will be shredded to the small one. A machinery is running which is open, that can injure you. So you have to be very careful. Perform daily cleanup procedures in the shredder room. Perform daily maintenance check. Make sure there are no people in the shredder room except you. Turn the main power switch on. Turn the control power on, and the screen should turn red. So after that, load the shredder, and you should know how to emergency stop the shredder if you think that it must be stopped and there is some problem. To load the shredder, use the tripper system. Do not load the shredder by hand. Always use the tripper system. It has a tripper system. Ensure the power supply to the tripper is on. And the emergency stop button is pulled out. Turn on the start button on the control panel. Wheel the trolley aluminum bin to the loading cart. Use the lever to dump the waste by pull up and pull down. And to continue loading, feed the shredder steadily, and it will keep on shredding the big chunks into the small particles. Stop the feeding the shredder. Keep running the shredder until the cutting chamber, discharging chutes and converter belt is empty. Press stop button on the control panel. Remove the shredder waste and pack the liners ready for the final disposal. And remove the PPE, clean, perform, use the shredder operation log and all those things, and secure the area and leave. So the last one is the chemical disinfectant treatment, and for chemical treatment, for the first step is the waste segregation. So if you want to do the chemical treatment, segregate the healthcare waste before disinfection. Separate infectious waste from the other types of waste, and ensure proper handling and the containment of different waste categories. So infectious waste should be like sharps should be separated from other infectious, pharmaceuticals should be separate, genotoxic waste be separate, and so on. You can Then make a selection of the disinfectant, choose the appropriate infectant based on type and nature of the waste. Common disinfectant that we usually use are chlorine-based solutions, hydrogen peroxide, or phenolic compounds. Follow the manufacturer's instruction for dilution ratios and user guidelines. So then for step 3, do the dilution, mixing, and application. When you apply the disinfectant solution to the healthcare waste, ensure that thorough coverage of all the surfaces is done. Then do for the contact time and allow the disinfectant solution to remain in contact with the waste for the recommended contact time for that solution. And contact time varies depending on the disinfectant and the pathogen targeted. So if the cysts are there or spores are there, then time is more time is required for the effective disinfection. So it usually ranges, as I've already said, from minimum from 30 minutes, so on, as per the recommendation. So, and after recommended contact time, neutralize or inactive the disinfect, follow specific procedure to use appropriate chemicals for neutralization if required, and ensure the dressing process is effective and complete. So what are the advantages of chemical action? It is effective in reducing or eliminating pathogens in the healthcare waste. It is relatively simple and cost effective compared to the other treatments, and which are, you can see the autoclave, how much autoclave is costing, or incinerator is costing, or shredder is costing. It is versatile and can be used for various range of waste types and the sizes. There are some limitations as well. Proper ventilation and personal protective equipment may be necessary during application. Environmental or occupational health consideration with certain disinfectants is there, and alternate treatment methods may be needed for specific waste types like sharps or pharmaceutical waste. So once you disinfect them, then you have to either encapsulate them, or for pharmaceuticals you have to give them back to the pharma company if you don't have the treatment, proper final disposal of the pharmaceutical waste. After treatment, how to dispose them of. As you see, it's written, open dump. Healthcare waste must not be deposited on or around the open dumps. The risk of either people or animals coming in contact with the infectious pathogens is obvious, and with the further risk of subsequent disease transmission, either directly or wound, inhalation, ingestion, or food chain, it can cause a number of diseases to both the human and animal life. And usually if they are on the open dumps and the scavengers are there, especially the children, what we see in our context, little children, small children, they keep on, they try to find out for their own living and their families' living. They go onto those dumps and they fetch out the things for those they can sell. So if they find those untreated syringes and other plastic material equipment, so they will be directly exposed to those pathogens and they can get the disease. So it's never ever dump healthcare waste in the open dumps. So sanitary landfills, properly established or properly constructed sanitary landfills are the one where this it has to be deposited. And for that, it is the most preferred method of disposing treated medical waste. So essential elements for designing and operating these sanitary landfills include access to the site and the working areas possible only for waste delivery and the site vehicles. In the presence of site personnel should be there, which are capable of effective control of the daily operations, and organized deposit of waste in a small area, allowing them to spread, compacted and covered daily. So if you go to the sanitary landfill, there is a proper daily compaction and cover is going on. So if there is, perhaps, if in cases where there are no sanitary landfills, any site from a controlled dump site could accept healthcare waste to avoid any measurable increase in the infectious risk. But that includes the ash from the incinerator, or treated waste from the autoclave, or chemically treated or shredded waste from the coming from the healthcare facility. Without treatment, never let go the waste out of the hospital. So You can also do the final disposal of the healthcare waste by you can build a hollow excavated in the municipal waste area, and then 2-meter layer of medical waste can be there. But that's the way this scavenging in this part site, then it should be prevented from the scavengers as well. In compliance to Islamic religion, if when there is a pathological waste, human organs, blood products are there from labor room and from surgical wards, they should be transported to graveyard and buried properly. And of course, if they are infected, chemically treated or with proper PPEs and everything, and taken care of each and everything, like we have seen during the COVID outbreak as well, the proper burial and at the same time protecting the ones who are burying them is important. So just to recap what we have learned today, healthcare waste must never be disposed of untreated. This is the first lesson. And secondly, there are numerous methods of disposal of depending upon the volume and type of infectious waste. And we have learned about autoclaving, incineration, shredding, and chemical treatment. And then use of most environment friendly and effective option should be the top priority. For instance, putting the ash into the landfill properly, sanitary landfill. If not available, find the open dumper, then a proper site. In one area within that open site, but that should be prevented from the scavengers. And of course, it should receive only the treated waste, not the untreated waste. And the manager's job is to save the living beings from spread of infectious disease and complying to the hospital's SOPs and hospital's responsibility of doing no harm. So that was the today's session on treatment and disposal of healthcare waste, and I hope you have understood and learned a few new things today. Thank you very much.